So, welcome back to the Let's Get Moving podcast, people. For over a decade now, we have dissected every trend, every philosophy, and every piece of equipment that claims to build genuine but resilient strength. So, we don't buy into the hype and the rumor stuff anymore. We look for the utility and the intention here. And today, we are diving into a tool that is simultaneously ancient and perpetually also very modern. So I would like to talk about the kettlebell training here. But more importantly, we are exploring how this implementation, often relegated to general conditioning, can be also intelligently integrated into a sophisticated periodization model for true, measurable, or even strength and durability. But our esteemed guest here today understands the utility better than almost anyone else that I know. He is a UK-based strength and conditioning coach, a mentor, a force in the SEN sector, and the founder of the aptly named the Orthodox Strength Society. His coaching resume is for me very exceptional, whereas he's basically taking a complete beginners to a Great Britain powerlifting representation or national squad and coaching also high-level grapplers, including the European champions. He also lives the belief that complexity can and should be simplified by a good coach. So please join me in welcoming a man who embodies resilience, clarity, and above all, the unorthodoxy. So Ash Norman is here with us today. Ash, it's a genuine pleasure to have you on my podcast here today, man.
My friend, thank you so much for those kind words. That really does mean a lot. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be on here. I was so excited when you messaged me, and I just wanted to just talk to you and get to know you as well, because you seem like a fantastic coach first and foremost,
Thank
and
you.
what you're promoting from what I've seen has been exceptional. So really, really good work from your end as well, my friend.
And also from my side, your career is very fascinating to me. So from a high level rugby to a combat sport. So you now blend the elite strength and conditioning with a full-time role as a behavior support manager in the special education needs sector. So this is for me a unique fusion of physical and emotional intelligence. So can you please walk us through how your competitive background and your deep experience in the SEN sector now shape the foundation of your coaching philosophy? So the philosophy that ultimately become the Unorthodox Strength Society.
I think it's important to note, like with me, I'm not an exceptionally intelligent person. So like I have to have things taught to me in a very basic way. And that's how I've been throughout my entire life. So when I played rugby, I started off and I was coached by people who are massive on the basics, and we connected so well. And it was a case of you just you do this, and it comes out with this outcome. And it's like no problem at all. Then I went to another level, and then complexity started to come in, and I really struggled at that point to work out what people were saying, and there was an assistant coach that broke certain things down in that basic term for me, and that was the moment in which I realized that whenever it come up to something that I'm trying to learn, I have to break down it into segments, I guess, so I can understand how I can take the complexity of that segment, so to speak, and I take my time with digesting it, because I can't just be taught something straight away. And this is how I've progressed as a coach, because I've done various courses and I've been listening to things that are saying, and you listen to other people in the room and they use really advanced terminology. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, cool. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And they go, I don't know. Well, you should never use a word that you don't understand.
Yes.
That's my rugby started off where I was taught the basics, went up into complexity, and I progressed in a way that was really fun. But I was very lucky and fortunate to have coaches around me that were exceptional at what they did, and they took us through everything in regards to they wanted us to know what to do when they left or when we left them.
Yeah.
And one of them always said to me was like, Ash, my job isn't to keep you at my hip for the rest of your life. My job is to teach you enough for you to go to you. Excuse me, for you to go to me. I know enough now. I can go on my own journey.
Yeah.
And I joined jumping forward into the education sector. I joined it as a teaching assistant. And I connected so well with the students because I struggled with many of the lessons. And actually, truthfully, I was learning the lessons as they were doing it as well, which was often quite an enjoyable experience. But I would do the same thing then, where I simple techniques of like writing notes on post-it cards where students wouldn't normally do that. And I'd show them just write down that word and think of that word
Yeah.
and the functionality of kettlebells, the way in which that implement for me, like no implement in the fitness market is perfect. And
Yeah.
it's really important to note that. Every single thing has a pro and con, but with the kettlebell for me, it ticks so many boxes.
Yeah.
And the movements that you can do with it are very simple to learn. They might look complex, but when you break it down into those basic segments, as I was speaking about before, whenever I teach the kettlebell snatch, you break it down into 3 simple movements. You have the swing, you have the high pull, and you have the punch out, which is the push press.
Okay.
3 basic movements. You drill those 3 movements, then you develop into a complex exercise. Throughout my career within rugby, we often focused on the big 3. So the squat, the bench, the deadlift. And what often happened, I noticed, was injuries would occur frequently. And for a very long time, I often thought about rotation within exercise, but I never truly explored it back then because I wasn't coaching mindset back then. It was just, oh, maybe that might work, but I won't go into it. And as my career went into more strongman, there is a lot of anti-rotation required within strongman. And this is where I started to look into kettlebells a little bit further because Andy Bolton, who is the first man to ever deadlift 1,000 pound in a powerlifting competition, I read his training manual, and within that it was discussing how kettlebell swings are one of the foundational movements of his training.
Yeah.
So I started to incorporate it within the strongman times, but I never truly focused on the other movements. That come later on when I actually moved away from strongman. But the swing itself had such a translation over to all the lifts that I just realized the true potential of the kettlebell, but the simplistic nature of the actual exercises itself. I moved away from strongman due to injuries and various other things. And that's where combat sports started to come back into my life.
Yeah.
That's where everything opened in regards to kettlebell training and the true potential.
Yes, this is also where your state, where you said that a good coach can simplify the complexity, that stick with me. So when you also approach a new client, for example, be they an elite competitor or just a beginner, so what are there for you a non-negotiable core strength principles that you establish before you even start considering maybe equipment like a kettlebell? So how do you make that complicated fundamentals accessible for the rookies, for example?
Yeah, perfect. I'm first and foremost the squat. The bodyweight squat, I need to be able to see a decent range of motion first and foremost, but I also don't believe that complete depth is always a necessity for everyone. But also I need to see good bar path within, or good, line management within the squat itself. The other part is press ups. I like for my clients in the early stages to be able to control their body. They have to be able to control their body, because if we can't, what's the point in loading it more? Because we don't have the ability to actually control it in the first place. So I'd like my client to be able to do 10 bodyweight push-ups, which is actually easily achievable by most people. I'd like them to be able to do 10 bodyweight squats in a controlled manner. And then at that point, I start to teach them the hinge motion of the swing itself. Okay. We start off with simply a dead start swing. And then that from the squat itself, they're learning how to actually absorb the power from the kettlebell. Yeah. And then the hinge motion becomes a lot easier. So it always starts off with body weight. Then we slowly, gradually bring in the swing. And then from the swing, we progress into cleans. Because I find cleans are that middle ground movement between the swing and the snatch. Yeah. Because when you go into overhead positions, it brings in so many complications for so many people because they're often not used to having anything over their head.
Yeah.
So I like to gradually bring that into their training. But as I said, body weight always first. I feel like that's so heavily neglected by people.
Yeah, that is also because it brings me also to the next question. For me personally, kettlebell is more than just an iron ball with a handle. So, from your perspective, what is the single most maybe unique training quality? Is it the leverage center of mass, or maybe the grip demands, or the dynamic nature that the kettlebell maybe offers, rather than just traditional barbell or dumbbell here that simply cannot replicate that? And why is this quality essential for building that resilient strength when using kettlebell strength training? So why do you think?
You said it perfectly. I am all about functionality and how training transfers over to life. I'm
Yeah,
I'm a father, so I always want to be able to do as much as I can, and that comes down to grip.
yeah,
Grip is so fundamental within life, and it's one of the most neglected parts of people's trainings. And that's what I love with kettlebells. No matter what you do with them, your grip is being trained.
yeah.
And so many people, excuse my dog, I do apologize for that.
It's
Um,
okay.
so many people